still don't like. Oh, cool, yeah, right in the back. Please turn off. Come on. It'll shut off in a second. I apologize for the noise. Forgot to hit the off button because it wasn't running until we decided to start. But we've done it before with me and with Manoj as well, where we do the taking the tests 5 minutes, working on it, then we take time to do explanations. Please shut off. But thank you. I did hit record, by the way, so we're good. So we're going to start on the second half of test 9. We're getting into the second half of the test, so the questions are going to be a little bit more difficult here, but still doable. Go ahead and ask questions, and we will get through it. And then we'll wrap back around to test 8 as we have the time. Test 9 begins on 701. Oh, but you're right, correct. We're on page, for question 31, so that is at the bottom of page 707, and then we go forward. All right. Setting a timer. You may begin. I'm double checking. Yes, Zoom can hear me.
Are we doing all of them in 5 minutes? The 31 through?
Just 5 at a time. So aim to be through 35 by the end of 5 minutes, and we'll jump along that way. All right, let's take the pause. Looking at number 31. So the two questions are, one, do you know how to solve it? Did you know how to get started?
For what one?
For number 31 on test 9, page 707 at the bottom. Okay, so this one is factoring. The idea that x minus 13 squared, this can break up into x minus 13 times x minus 13. That's what squared means. On the bottom, we have x squared minus 169. This one is a pattern called difference of squares. If you have two perfect squares, x squared is obviously a perfect square. 169 is 13 squared, and so we have difference or subtraction connecting the two of them. This can factor into what I call the plus minus pattern. Square root of x squared is just x. Square root of 169 is 13. These are the same top and the bottom, and they cancel out, and so it should be that e there. (32). It's a case of plug in and solve, and so all the variables cancel out, and you have -2, but it's -2 to the 4th power, and so that negative sign disappears. Leaving on the negative is probably the most common mistake you'll make, but it is F. All right. For number 33, the answer would be D. So, do you want to go over that one? Okay. Got a lot of English. So, a matter of translating it into equation. The larger of two numbers, so I'm going to give myself x and y. The larger of two numbers exceeds twice the smaller number by 9. So I'm going to say I want x to be the bigger one. So the larger of the two numbers exceeds or is bigger than twice the smaller number by 9. And so this large number is 9 greater than twice the small number. So 2 times the small number plus 9. Equals that. You could also have x minus 9 equals 2y. Those are the two ways that I would see that one. But either way, we know x is bigger, y is smaller, and it's bigger by 9 more than twice that number. The sum of twice the larger and 5 times the smaller number is 74. So we'd have 2x plus 5y is equals 74. And then we would be replacing this in for x. So I agree B is tempting. It's figuring out that whole 9 more than twice. One of the best ways to do that is to pick a number if you get stuck on those. For instance, exceeds the larger of the two numbers exceeds twice the smaller number by 9. So if I pick 3 as the small number, twice the small number is going to be 6. And we need our other number to exceed this by 9. And so it would have to be 9 bigger than that number. And it would be 15. 15 exceeds twice 3 by 9. But in doing that, you can see, oh, that's what I'm adding together. And so if you get lost in the weeds on those numbers, just pick a number and then you'll do it naturally because you understand, oh, I'm adding 9 to this. I'm going 9 bigger. And so sometimes switching back into a number can help you see the process, and then you can match it up with the algebra. All right. Number 34 is G. Any questions on that one? That one I called a solve problem. And number 35 is B. And that's the one that I call a number sense problem. It's not using a particular thing you've learned. It's just understanding what the numbers are doing and then working with them. All right. If there are no further questions, you may begin again. 36 through 40 is where we're aiming for on this next set. If you happen to work ahead, that is okay. over 36 through 40. Do you want me to just read the answers first, or do you want to go through them one by one? Anyway, for number 36, this is one of the ones that is actually more tricky than a lot of them. 36, the answer would be F. Questions on that one? Yeah?
Can you just go over?
Uh-huh. So for 36, we have the idea that we have a squared and b squared, and we have the second number is a times b to the third. And so a and b are unknown numbers. We don't know what they are, but we are told that the greatest common factor of these two numbers is 45. Which of the following could be equal? So, in order to have this be a factor, we have to factor 45, because the greatest common factor is always going to be made up of the pieces that are common in both things. So, what does 45 multiply into? Or, sorry, divide into. What does it break up into? What are its factors?
9,
Yeah. We multiply 9 times 5. 5 is prime. It doesn't break down anymore. But 9 can break up into 3 and 3. Have you done greatest common factor very much with like the algebra stuff? I don't think I'm going to go that way then. So the idea is we have a 3 and a 3 here, and we have a 5 here. We have a squared and b squared. We have a times b to the third. So this is a times a, b times b is what that means. And we have a, b, b, b. What do they share in common between the two of them? An A and two B's. So, matching that up with the numbers that we have in for 45, B could be this 3 because we have two 3's. A could be this 5 because it has one 5. And so if they share in common 45 between the two of them, we're going to assume that this B goes with the 3 and the A goes with the 5 because there's one A and two B's. And so which of the following could be equal? B could equal 3. And that's where that one comes from. The idea is knowing that you can break these down into pieces. You break this down into its prime factors, what numbers match up? All right. So for 37, I have this labeled as arithmetic sequence and linear equation, depending on how you see it. The answer would be C. Questions on how to solve those?
Can you go over it?
Yeah. So, the cost of carriage rides of different lengths given in half miles are shown in the table below. Each cost consists of a fixed charge and a charge per half mile. What is the fixed charge? So, labels are important. It tells us that the top number is the number of half miles. And so even though it's changing by 1, each one of those pieces of information is a new half mile. So from 5 half miles to 6 half miles, what is the change in the cost? 50 cents. And so that tells us, okay, we have 0.5 per half mile. That one's pretty easy. And what is the fixed charge? So they're asking us, how much does it cost to even start this carriage ride? We know it's going to be 50 cents per half mile, but we don't know what it was to start with. You could just go back by 50 cents until you get to 0, but more interestingly or more traditionally, it's just y equals mx plus b, back to the linear equation. We know what the slope is, it's 0.5. Take your pick of whichever one you want to plug in. I think that 5 and 8 is nice. So we have 8 equals 0.5 times 5 plus b, or plus our start value. Half of 5 is 250, so 8 equals 2.5 plus b. Subtract the 2.5 from both sides. b equals 5.5. Or in other words, $5.50 to start the carriage ride. All right. Number 38, the answer is G, as in goat. That one is going back to trig, which we talked about a few weeks ago. Questions on how to get that set up or what's going on there? Okay. Online.
Can you walk through it, please?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for piping up. All right, so we have a triangle. Making sure I have it labeled right. We have A, B, and C. And it specifically tells us that the sine of angle A, so we're looking at this one, is equal to 3/5. Remember that a sine is talking about the opposite over the hypotenuse. So we can treat this as the 3 and this as the 5 because it told us the sine equals 3/5. But they also tell us that the hypotenuse is 16 inches long. And so they ask us to find how long is BC. So we can treat that as X. I know I've got two different numbers here, but the idea is that this is going to hold that same ratio, that same relationship, because the angle is the same for both of them. And so we can set up an equivalent proportion that 3/5 is the same as X over 16. And here we are going to need a calculator that I actually don't have. Need to be better about bringing one. But the idea is we can cross multiply this. 3 times 16 divided by 5, so 48 divided by 5 equals X. Again, told you the horror story that I did this without a calculator. At this point, I would be saying, okay, if it were 45, it'd be 9. So 48 is going to be 9 and change, G. And that's where I get an answer. So, knowing what that 3/5 makes, and then referring back to the length they gave us would be the two key things to solving that one. All right, 39. Have you guys even seen circle equations yet? So, the equation of a circle is based on a very important idea that we have x squared plus y squared is equal to r squared, where this is the radius. If we have just this setup, and I say, okay, x squared plus y squared equals 4 squared, or it might be written as equal to 16, it's going to be centered here at the origin, and the radius is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4 in all directions. And that's the equation of a circle. On this particular problem, that says it has the center at 12 and negative 5. Is 12 the x coordinate or the y coordinate? X. So it's going to change this x. And more particularly, similar to the polynomials, it's about what makes it 0. And so if we have x minus 12, if we were to put in 12, it would make it 0. It would make it that center. The same way, negative 5 is on the y. So negative 5 is going to change this y. And what makes it 0? We have y plus 5, because negative 5 would make it 0. And then it said that the radius was 4, and so the radius is going to be 4 squared. And so that one is E. I think he has it on the schedule to talk about circles a little bit further on, so we won't spend too much time on that, but I apologize for my bad 4. That is the basics behind circles. The number at the end is always the radius squared, and it always has an x piece and a y piece, and where it's centered is what makes that 0. Okay. Last one on this section, 40. Correct answer is G. Questions on how to set that one up? On this one, you would.
Can you go through that one? Maybe.
So we have 24 over 30. And this is greater than t over 24. And you're trying to find what's the maximum value of t that still works. So these are listed in order. It is perfectly fine to just plug them in and keep going until you get the highest one that still makes it true. And so on this one, you can definitely guess and check. Just plug numbers in. Calculators are fast enough. That's not a bad technique. But if you're solving officially, I would start by reducing this. If we have 24 over 30, it would be 4/5. And so that is a little bit easier to deal with the numbers. You can solve the equivalent fraction. And so you'll have 24 times 4 is 96, I want to say. And so it'll be 96 divided by 5. Which comes out to 19.2. And so if it's 19.2, the greatest number that still works that makes it less than would be the solid 19. And so again, you can just plug numbers in and see what works, or you can treat it like an equal sign and get, okay, this is 19.2. That means it has to be slightly smaller than that. The next integer that's smaller is the 19. All right, go ahead and go forward. You guys are doing really well. All right, and stop. So, first and foremost, for 41, the correct answer is E. Questions on why that has to be? Again, if you need help on those, just give yourself a number and work with it and see what you can figure out. 42. This has one of my stars next to it. This means that I think that this one's a little tricky. Did anybody catch the trick? Okay. So, quick sketch. We've got a trapezoid. It's not an isosceles trapezoid or anything special. And we've got this diagonal drawn in. We know that this is 105. And we are looking for this. We also know that this is a 60-degree angle down here, and that this is 30 up above. So, what makes a shape a trapezoid? What is special about them? Okay. Trapezoids mean that one set of sides is parallel.
So that one down there is 30.
The one down here is 30, and then you can use adds up to 180 to solve for the unknown one. The other thing you could do is, again, because of these parallel lines, you could treat this one as a transversal and get this as 105, and then again 30 plus angle plus 105 equals 180. Both of those are completely valid ways to do it. It's just the question of which one do you see. But when you have trapezoid, you know you have parallel lines. It's hidden inside the definition of trapezoid. All right, for 43, 42, I'm forgetting to read answers. 42, the answer was K. It was 45. And for 43, the answer is E. Questions on where that one came from? It's an isosceles triangle. You have two base angles that are 34. The last one is the leftovers. All right, for 44 percentages, the correct answer is K. Working backwards from what you know.
Can you walk through that one?
Okay. So, we are told that in a budget, 30% goes towards housing costs, and of that, 20% goes to rent. Now they tell us that rent is $630. And what is the total amount of the budget? The important thing here is that you know that this is a fraction of a fraction. It's stacking up because 30% of the budget is housing and 20% of that is going to be the actual rent. So if we knew what the housing was, I'm going to call it H, or sorry, I'm going to if we knew what the total budget was, if we knew this is the amount of money we make, we would take this money and multiply it by 0.3, which is the same as 30%. It's the decimal equivalent. We'd take that and multiply it by 0.3 to get the housing costs. And again, we'd take that answer and multiply it by 0.2 to get the rent. And then this would equal the rent, the $630. From here, it's a matter of stripping away that information or stripping away those. And so we would divide both sides by 0.2 and then divide both sides by 0.3. And it would go back to that great big number. Real life, if only 20% of your housing costs is rent, that's a very odd situation. Usually rent is the bulk of your housing costs. Maybe they're spending a vast amount on remodeling, but then they would be owning it, not renting. So who knows? It doesn't fit the real world. That's the procedure. All right. Last one is 45. The correct answer is A. I don't think we've done matrix multiplication with you guys.
I've done it before.
You've done it before? Okay. So the idea is that I'm not writing in everything, but this is 3 rows by 1 column, and this is 1 column by 3 rows. Our final answer is going to be 3 by 3. And so with that, you can limit it down to, okay, it's either A or B. But multiplying out, what happens is you take first row times first column gives you first answer. Second row by second column gives you the second answer. If I went first row by second column, it would give me first row, second column answer. And so that's what goes on with those. The only difference between those two is that B has the zeros across that middle row and A doesn't. So I would be checking the second row, first column. So the second row is 3x, the first column is 1, and so there should be the 3x there rather than 0. And that's all the further I'd go as far as figuring out which one I needed to do. But I was teaching the matrix stuff with the advanced group. I have to work to find more than one matrix problem per test. They aren't that common. And so if you've never seen this before, don't spend a lot of energy on studying this. It's there, it's a possibility, but sometimes there are tests that don't even have it. So don't give it too much of your brain power. Along the same lines, next section, if you are unable to do 36, move on. Don't beat your head against it if you don't know.
36.
Sorry, 46. All right, and as always, if you are working ahead, that's fine. This is the last section we're going to get done. And I'll tell Manoj that you were excellent and asked lots of questions.
Yeah, a little emotional since I
Absolutely.
was
right. In the name of getting done and giving you guys a break, we will go ahead and go through those. So 46, the answer is F, and if you have questions on that, I'll get to that at the end. But for 47, this one's an interesting one. The answer is A. And then for 48, the answer is F. 49, the answer is B. And 50, the answer is G. So, questions on those, which one are you most curious about?
Can you do 48?
Yeah. So, the greatest integer of a set of consecutive even integers is 12. So, consecutive means coming right after each other. The specification of even means that they're going to be the even numbers. And so if the greatest one is 12, what's the one that comes before it? It's your question. I got shy. So the number that's coming before it that's an even integer is 10 and 8 and 6 on down the line. Now it tells us that the sum of these integers is 40. So if we take 12 plus 10, we're up to 22, plus 8, we have 30, plus 6, we have 36, and so the next one down is 4, plus 4 is the 40. And so how many integers are in this set? Well, we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them. So that one is just understanding what they mean about consecutive even integers. This is the greatest, so we can just work our way down, adding as we go. Any others? So, for those of you in Algebra 2, the key to figuring out 46 is completing the square. And I'm not ready to take up all of your break time doing that one. So, again, that's another one that it's like, ooh, I haven't seen that on any other test in this entire thing. And I've gone through a lot of them. So, they like to throw in those random weird ones so that they can say, ooh, this person is the perfect score. They got the 36. And even if you don't get those problems, you can easily get a 34 or something like that. And so if you're aiming for the perfection, yeah, study perfect squares. If you're just saying, I want to get a good grade and get a good college and everything else, you will be okay. So there we are. We will break for 5 minutes and then the time will begin again. And I think you have English today.